The Last Stand of Humanity, 7 to 70 words. Captain Mark Ellis sat alone on the bridge of the Starship Horizon, its engines humming with tired strength. Outside the viewport, the ruined skyline of Titan Station glowed like embers in a dying fire. For weeks, the Dominion fleet had bombarded Earth's colonies, crushing every outpost in their path. Now, only this battered station and one last starship stood between humanity and total extinction. Mark glanced at his second-in-command, Lieutenant Emma Cruz, who hovered over the tactical display. Her fingers flew across the hollow panel, adjusting shields, rerouting power, and plotting a narrow corridor through the Dominion minefield. "Our window is closing," she murmured, eyes fixed on a blinking red icon that marked a swarm of fast attack fighters. He nodded. "I know. We have one chance to break their line, reach the relay station beyond Europa, and send our signal. If they jam us, that's it." The weight of command settled on him like a heavy cloak. 800,000 to 1. The odds were worse than any battle human history had ever seen. A soft chime announced a visitor. Mark's heart sank when he saw the civilian volunteer step onto the bridge. Dr. Lila Sharma, the station's chief engineer. She carried a small datapad tightly against her chest, eyes full of determination. When the Dominion had overrun the colonies, Lila had volunteered to help repair Horizon's damaged engines. Now she bore the key to humanity's final hope. "Captain," she said, voice steady, "I've finished the modifications to the fusion reactor. We can boost the drive core to 10% above maximum output for a short burn. It'll give us the speed we need to slip through their blockade." Mark rose from his chair. The reactor was already pushing its limits. Another surge might tear the ship apart. Yet without it, they would never reach the relay. "How long can it hold?" he asked. 2 minutes at full power." Lila opened the datapad, revealing a series of glowing schematics. "After that, the containment field will fail. We'll lose every crew member on board." Silence fell. Emma traced her finger along the display. 2 minutes is enough," she said finally. "If we go in at Vector 937, we'll hit a narrow gap between their cruisers. It's a long shot, but then we make it," Mark finished, voice firm. "We owe the survivors at Old Mars Relay one last chance." He turned to Lila. "Set it up, I'll brief the crew." In the mess hall, the remaining 100 souls of Titan Station gathered at rough tables. Children clung to parents. Weary soldiers leaned on rifles. Hope flickered in their eyes like the failing lights above. When Mark entered, silence spread across the room. He climbed onto a crate and met their gaze. "You all know why we're here. In a few hours, the Horizon will slip past the Dominion blockade and reach Europa Relay. That station will send our plea to any listening human outpost, if it's still there." He paused, letting the gravity of their mission settle in. "These odds, 800,000 to 1, they're more than numbers. They are every moment we fought, every sacrifice we made. Tonight we make history." He saw Lila at the back, hands trembling slightly but chin held high. Soldiers straightened. Children looked up, hope shining anew. "This is more than a mission," he continued. "It is our stand. We fight not because we know we will win, but because we cannot live with defeat. When our grandchildren ask how we faced oblivion, we will tell them we stood firm, eyes open, hearts unbroken." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Someone shouted, "For humanity." Others echoed it. Mark smiled grimly. "Good, now get some rest. At Aero 200 hours we move." Back on the bridge, Mark and Emma reviewed the final calculations. Lila coordinated with the engine room via comlink, confirming every adjustment. A sudden alert blinked on the tactical display. 6 Dominion scouts had detected increased energy output in Titan's hangar bays. Emma frowned. "They're probing. If they trace us here, they'll destroy the station outright." She keyed her comm. "Lila, can you mask the reactor surge until we're clear of gravity?" There was a pause. Then Lila's voice answered, tight with concentration. "I'll try a phased Doppler shift on the exhaust. It should cloak our signature for 90 seconds. Mark exhaled slowly. "Make it 100. He turned to the viewport, watching the distant specks of the Dominion fleet close in. Each one carried hundreds of guns, thousands of soldiers. If they caught Horizon in the open, the mission, and everyone on board, would end in fire. He placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. "Ready when you are," he said softly. She flicked a switch. The entire bridge dimmed as power diverted to the engines. Horizon shuddered, as if it could feel its own strain. Green energy lines pulsed along the hull, coalescing into a growing glow at the stern. Captain Ellis looked to Lila's camera feed on the corner screen. She gave a single nod. He leaned forward. All ahead full. With a roar that shook every panel, Horizon leapt into the void. Outside, the stars smeared into streaks of light. The station's hangar doors sealed behind them, and the last refuge of humanity faded into darkness. Mark gripped the armrests. Ahead lay a gauntlet of death. But behind him was every soul who dared to hope. And as the speed climbed toward the impossible, he knew one thing for certain. Humanity had refused to back down. The Horizon's hull groaned as its engines pushed well beyond safe limits. Behind her, Titan Station's hangar bay slid shut with a thunderous clang. Ahead lay the Dominion blockade, dozens of cruisers and corvettes arranged like jagged teeth across the void. Captain Ellis steadied himself in the command chair. "Status?" he asked. Lieutenant Cruz's fingers danced. "Reactor surge holding at 98%. Doppler cloaking engaged. But we've swept close-range sensors. We're still visible to visual and thermal scans." She turned pale. "They're converging." On the main viewport, distant cruisers rotated their gun arrays toward the horizon. Captain Ellis inhaled. "Hold steady. Emma, steer us through the gap at Vector 937. Lila, fire the reactor boost on my mark." "Understood," came Lila's calm reply from the engineering display. The ship lurched as Emma initiated. The course change. Stars shifted and the cruiser's silhouettes grew larger. A pulse of static crackled through the comm lines. "Unidentified vessel detected," a cold voice announced. "State your purpose before you're destroyed." Mark's jaw tightened. "Tell them we're human, they'll understand." Emma's lip quivered. "That might not help." Mark raised his chin. "Do it." A moment later, the comm boomed. With a Dominion officer's retort, "Humans extinct. Resistance is futile." Before the officer could order fire, Lila's countdown began. 3, 2, 1. A blinding flare of energy burst from the Horizon's engines. The ship bucked, then surged forward, slipping the first volley of plasma beams. Alarms wailed as shields flared red. The reactor's warning lights blinked furiously. Emma twisted the helm, weaving between cruiser hulls. Plasma bolts arced and exploded against the Horizon's flank. Each hit sent shudders through the deck plates. Crew members gripped consoles. "To stay upright." "Shields at 40%, Emma shouted. "Divert power to forward shields," Mark ordered. "And load the point defense turrets." He tapped a console, bringing up the weapons array. Tiny railguns and laser turrets sprang to life around the ship's bow. Outside, a squadron of fast attack fighters broke formation, racing toward the horizon. Emma banked sharply, dodging a volley of missiles. "They're trying to swarm us," she cried. Lila's voice sounded strained. "Reactor containment at limit. 10 more seconds. Deploy countermeasures," Mark barked. Chaff canisters ejected from hull bays, creating clouds of metallic strips. Missiles veered off course, detonating in harmless arcs. The horizon cut through the blockade's outer ring. 2 cruisers opened full broadsides. Plasma beams converged on her hull. Emma held her breath as shields flickered dangerously. At the last moment, they passed the gap. The guns overshot, carving trails of fire across empty space. The horizon thundered through, leaving the blockade behind. Silence filled the bridge for a heartbeat. Emergency lights bathed the crew in a dim red glow. Mark rubbed his temples. "Report." Emma's face was pale. "We lost 2 pontoons and a sensor array. Shields are at 20%, but we're clear of immediate threat." Lila's gauge showed the reactor dropping back to safe levels. "Reactor stabilized at nominal output," she announced. "We're still alive." A cheer rose from the bridge crew. Captain Ellis allowed himself a brief smile. Good work, everyone, but we're not out yet. He tapped the tactical display. Europa relay is 2 light hours ahead. Dominion reinforcements will be on us in minutes. We need to make repairs and patch the shields. Emma, plot a course that hugs the asteroid belts of the Jupiter system. We can use them for cover. On it, Emma replied, fingers flying. Mark looked at Lila. Can the reactor handle another burst if we need to escape pursuit? Lila hesitated. Only if we're absolutely forced. It's too dangerous. Then let's avoid being forced. He turned to the viewport. Jagged rocks tumbled in the distance, tracing silent orbits around the gas giant. Set a 50,000-kilometer approach. We'll move through the shadows. Yes, sir, Emma said. Down in engineering, sparks flew as Lila and her team worked furiously. Aluminum struts bent, wiring singed. Lila wiped sweat from her brow. If we can reroute power through the secondary conduits, we can boost shields by another 10%. She pointed to a panel. But it'll take at least 8 minutes. Her assistant, Petty Officer Jamil, glanced at the controls. That gives us time, if the Dominion doesn't catch us first. Lila nodded. We'll finish it. She slammed a tool onto a panel. Let's go. Back on the bridge, Mark checked his wrist chrono. 10 minutes until we reach the asteroid field, he said. Emma, send a drone to scout ahead. A small tactical drone buzzed from a launch bay and sped into the darkness. Moments later, its feed appeared on the main screen. A cluster of spinning asteroids filled the view. Looks clear, Emma said. No Dominion vessels in sensor range yet. Mark allowed himself a breath. Keep your eyes open. Suddenly, the drone's camera flickered. A Dominion light cruiser emerged from behind a rock, its turrets swiveled toward them. Ambush! Emma shouted. The bridge exploded into activity. Evasive maneuvers, Mark ordered. Lila, shields, now! A surge of power flowed through the ship. The turrets tracked the cruiser, blazing away. The horizon dodged and weaved among asteroids, plasma fire clashing off nearby rocks. Through the chaos, Mark felt that familiar spark of determination. Twice they had faced impossible odds, and twice they had survived. Now, as the cruiser pursued them deeper into the asteroid belt, he knew one thing. Humanity's fight was far from over. End of Part 2. The horizon rattled as the Dominion cruiser's plasma beams smashed into nearby asteroids, sending chunks of rock tumbling across the void. Captain Ellis gripped the armrest, eyes narrowed on the main viewport. Hold course, he shouted. Use the debris for cover. Lieutenant Cruz keyed commands. The horizon banked sharply, weaving through a tight cluster of tumbling boulders. Each twist brought them closer to the cruiser's guns, and also deeper into the maze of space junk. Shields at 15%, Emma warned. We can't take many more hits. Mark's jaw tightened. Keep dodging. Lila, how's that shield upgrade coming along? On the engineering display, Lila's face appeared, flushed with effort. We've rigged the secondary conduits, but I need another 2 minutes to finish the calibration. After that, we can boost shields back up to 30%. Then make it fast, Mark replied. He tapped the comm panel. Jamil, prep the close-range torpedoes. We'll need a surprise attack. In the torpedo bay, Petty Officer Jamil and his team readied the sleek green warheads. Jamil checked the seals and guidance systems. These torpedoes have an 80% chance of hitting at point-blank range, he told his assistant Omar. But we'll only get one shot. Omar nodded. Better make it count. Jamil keyed the targeting coordinates. Above them, the horizon's drone feed showed the cruiser creeping closer, its silhouette stark against the field of debris. Stand by, Jamil whispered. Back on. The bridge, the horizon's drone zipped ahead through a narrow gap. Its camera feed showed the cruiser's engines glowing red-hot. There, Emma cried. If we fire from that cleft, we can strike below their shield array. Mark leaned forward. Launch the drone decoy. He hit a button, and the main drone split into 2 ships, one real, one false, flying divergent paths. The cruiser pivoted, firing on the false drone. Its plasma blasts sheared the decoy apart, leaving only fragments. The real drone slipped under the cruiser's belly. "Jamil, torpedoes away," Mark ordered. In the torpedo bay, green warheads launched, with staccato thumps. On the viewport, one torpedo streaked toward the cruiser's underside. "Target locked," Emma announced. "Impact in 3, 2, 1. A flash of light blossomed beneath the cruiser. The horizon shook as the cruiser's hull buckled. Chunks of its plating peeled away and fuel lines ignited in brilliant arcs. The cruiser veered off course, its engines damaged. It limped into the depths of the asteroid belt, leaving a trail of burning wreckage. A cheer rose from the bridge crew, but Mark held up a hand. "Not over yet." He checked the reactor gauges. "How are we on shields?" Emma's voice was relieved. 32% upgrade complete." Lila's face appeared again. "We're stable. No further danger of overload." Mark exhaled. "Good work." He looked at the tactical display. Only one more cruiser remained in pursuit. "We can make it to Europa Relay if we stay low in the belt. Plot a course that hugs this string of asteroids." He pointed to a dense cluster near Jupiter's orbit. Emma tapped the controls. "Course plotted. ETA 15 minutes. Keep scanners on full sweep," Mark added, "and alert me to any surprise contact." Down in the engineering deck, Lila and her team celebrated quietly. Omar brought over fresh coffee. "Nice shot, Jamil," Lila said, raising her cup. Jamil grinned. "Just doing my part." Suddenly, the deck shuddered. Warning lights blinked. A warning buzzer sounded. Lila frowned. "What now?" Her console read, "Hull breach. Secondary coolant line ruptured." She rushed to the panel. "We've been hit by micro debris. Coolant is leaking fast." She tapped the repair protocols. "We have 4 minutes before the reactor overheats. Can you seal the breach?" Omar asked. Lila pressed her lips together. "The main seal is damaged. I need to reroute the coolant through the backup loop. It'll take 3 minutes." "Do it," Jamil said. They worked side by side, welding pipes and reconnecting hoses. Sweat dripped from Lila's brow as sparks flew. Behind them, the reactor bar glowed ominously. Back on the bridge, Mark paced. "Any word from the drone?" Emma blinked at the screen. "It's still sending. No Dominion ships in range." Mark nodded, but his worry didn't ease. They were vulnerable until they reached the relay. Even one more hit could doom them all. Outside, asteroids spun in silent arcs, casting eerie shadows across the horizon's hull. Time felt stretched as the ship inched forward. Suddenly, the deck beneath Mark's feet jolted hard. Red lights flared. Emma gasped. "Mother star warning. Reactor temperature rising." Mark whirled. "Lila, status." "Almost there," her voice crackled. 50% coolant restored. Give me 30 seconds. Mark placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. "Hold her together." Then he cut the comm. He turned to the crew. "Everyone brace for potential power loss." The lights dimmed as the backup coolant loop clicked into place. A hiss of steam echoed through the ship. Quiet settled. Moments later, the reactor bar dropped back to normal. The lights returned to white. Lila's triumphant laugh crackled through the comm. "We're safe." Mark allowed himself a tired grin. "Well done." He glanced at the viewport. The asteroid cluster lay just ahead. "Europa Relay in 10 minutes, Emma said. Mark straightened, determination burning in his eyes. On to the final leg. Humanity's hope travels with us. Shadows at the relay, 750 words. The horizon slid out from behind the asteroid belt into the faint glow of Europa's rings. Ahead, the Europa relay station drifted like a silent sentinel among ice shards and dark space. Its massive antennae reached skyward, ready to transmit the call for help, if only they could dock in time. Captain Ellis stood behind Emma as she guided the ship toward the station's landing bay. "We've made it this far," he said quietly. "Let's finish it." Lieutenant Cruz smiled wanly. "Relay docks are limited. We may need to reroute power to the thrusters for a precision approach." Mark nodded. "Do it. Lila, prepare. The override protocols. I want full control of external systems as soon as we dock. In engineering, Lila tapped commands at her console. The reactor hummed steadily, its coolant loop stable after the recent emergency. Override upload at 80%, she reported. We'll have station control in 30 seconds. Petty Officer Jamil hovered behind her, checking hull. Integrity readouts. He frowned. We took more impacts than I realized back there. Cargo bays are half breached. If we dock at full speed, we risk tearing through the station's airlocks. Lila tapped her tablet. Shields are down to 25%. We can't risk another dive on the blockade afterward. We dock gently, then repair. Jamil exhaled. Understood. Back on the bridge, Emma aligned the horizon with the station's magnetic tethers. Brakes engaged, she called. We're drifting at 0.02 Gs. Mark flicked switches to engage the override. Lines of code rolled across the display. Within seconds, the station's control grid blinked to life on their screens. External lights on, Mark ordered. Flood lamps illuminated the station's docking bay, revealing a battered but intact hull. Open inner airlocks. A hiss echoed through the comm channels as the massive doors slid aside. The horizon eased forward, guided by magnetic clamps. With a final soft thud, she locked into place. Silence reigned for a moment before the docking clamps sealed. The main hatch cycled open with a pneumatic sigh. Let's move, Mark said. He led Emma, Lila, and Jamil into the station's dimly lit corridor. Emergency lamps glowed red, casting long shadows on steel walls scarred by impacts. They reached the central comm chamber, where the station's main transmitter pulsed with dormant energy. The massive dish stood silent, awaiting its command. Lila hurried to the console. I need full power from the Horizon's reactor, she said. Diverting now. Emma tapped a panel. Power rerouted. We have 20 megawatts. Lila keyed several commands. The transmitter hummed, then roared to life. The great dish tilted, scanning the void. Finally, the status light turned green. Mark pressed his palm to the transmit glyph. A burst of static crackled through the comms, then cleared. This is human Starship Horizon. Survivors of Titan Station, Europa Colony, and Old Mars Relay request aid. Our home is lost. If any human outpost remains, answer our call. We stand ready to join and fight. He held the button until the timer reached 10. Then he released it. Done. In the hush that followed, Emma watched the view screen. Relay. Logs show outgoing transmissions, but no response yet. Mark frowned. Communications are one way for now. We need to wait. Miles away, drifting through silent vacuum, hung a small refugee vessel, the Gabriel's Dawn. Its crew had lost power and direction months ago, adrift between systems. Inside, young officer Maya Patel monitored a flickering screen. The relay just sent a signal, she said, disbelief in her voice. It's a human broadcast. Her captain, Lieutenant Aaron Price, stared at her. Play it back. The static cleared. We're alive, they're calling. He punched his fist. Set course for Europa. If humanity still fights, then so do we. Back on the horizon, Mark watched the station's gauges. We need to repair our shields before we move out. He turned to Emma. Coordinate with Lila, I'll oversee. He paused, looking at the silent dish. At least our message is out. Emma placed a hand on his arm. And we're not alone anymore. Down the corridor, Jamil approached with, Omar. Jamil's jaw was set. Sir, I overheard in the bay. Some crew members doubt we can survive another jump. They say we should stay here and rebuild. Mark studied him. Hope is fragile, Jamil. But staying means hiding in a dead station. We fight or we die. I choose to fight. Jamil nodded. Understood. In the comm chamber, Lila's console beeped. Incoming transmission, weak signal. It's the Gabriel's Dawn. Emma tapped to amplify. The Gabriel's Dawn's view screen flickered on, showing a battered ship's crew. Relief and determination shone on their faces. Captain Price's voice crackled through. This is Gabriel's Dawn. We heard your call. Set your course. We'll Rendezvous at Europa in 3 hours. A cheer rose through the chamber. Mark allowed himself a rare smile. Send them docking coordinates, and message any other survivors. We're gathering here. He turned to the team. The odds were 800,000 to 1, yet here we stand, joined by survivors. The fight continues. Emma tapped her comm. Coordinates sent. Mark gazed at the Europa sky beyond the viewport. Part 5 begins soon, he whispered, and humanity's stand grows stronger. The Horizon's docking clamps released with a soft hiss, and the Gabriel's Dawn slipped alongside the Europa relay station. Captain Ellis watched the other ship's battered hull, marked by scorch scars and makeshift repairs. Yet its crew moved with purpose, confidence renewed by the call for aid. Lieutenant Cruz keyed her comm. Gabriel's Dawn, this is Horizon. Welcome aboard. Docking Bay 7 is clear. A crackling reply came. Thank you, Horizon. We'll be there in 2 minutes. Mark turned to Lila. How are our shields? She adjusted her console. 45% and rising. I've rerouted auxiliary power. We'll be at full strength in 10 minutes. Good, he said. Once they're aboard, we'll merge crews and share resources. Then we plot our next move. 2 minutes later, the Gabriel's Dawn eased into the docking bay. Its hatch opened, and survivors, soldiers, engineers, medics, and families streamed through the connecting tunnel. Lieutenant Price led the way, his shoulders squared with quiet relief. Mark met him at the airlock. Lieutenant Price, welcome. I'm Captain Ellis. Price offered a firm handshake. Thank you, Captain. We thought all was lost. Mark stepped aside to let the newcomers pass. Emma and Jamil helped guide families to temporary quarters. Lila hustled to exchange engineering plans with the Dawn's chief mechanic. From the corner of his eye, Mark saw 2 young children clutching handmade signs. We're not forgotten, and humans unite. Their voices quivered as they sang, an old Earth hymn, faint but unwavering. Mark felt a lump in his throat. Show me to your commander, he told Price. They entered the rally chamber, a once grand hall now scarred by fragments of metal and ice. A holographic star map hovered above the central console, dotted with fading lights that marked human outposts. Most dark now, except for one blinking dot at Old Terra. Lieutenant Price tapped the map. We received a weak broadcast from Old Terra before our systems failed. They say they hold one last shipyard. If we can reach them, we might salvage vessels and rebuild a fleet. Mark traced the line. Old Terra lay 6 light hours from Europa, beyond the asteroid belt they had just traversed, between lay Dominion patrols and drifting minefields. 6 hours, and heavy enemy presence, he mused. But without ships, any rescue is impossible. Price nodded. We'll need every hand. Engineers to repair hulls and shields, medics to treat the wounded, pilots for escort runs. Emma leaned in. Our combined crews number 300. It's enough to take on a small frigate on the way. If we can disable one ship, we can slip through on its signature. Mark's eyes gleamed. A hit and run. I like it. He raised his voice. All hands, gather in the main bay. Moments later, Horizon and Dawn crews assembled. Soldiers, in patched uniforms, families with children clutching blankets, engineers still smudged with grease. Mark stood on a makeshift platform and cleared his throat. Friends, he began, we survived odds no one believed we could beat. Alone, we were lost. Together, we are a force. Old Terra may be our final hope, but the path is dangerous. We must strike fast and strike hard. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. He raised his fist. We will rescue our people, rebuild our strength, and show the Dominion that humanity cannot be extinguished. Are you with me? A roar answered him. For humanity! Later in the shipyard bay, Lila and the Dawn's mechanic, Captain Reyes, pored over schematics. They outlined repairs for 2 Dawn frigates lingering in storage and the Horizon's damaged pontoons. Reyes tapped a blueprint. If we cannibalize the Dawn signal jammers, we can boost your cloaking fields to mask our approach near Old Terra. Lila frowned. That leaves the Dawn exposed if we're intercepted. Reyes met her gaze. True, but old Terra's defenders are human. They won't fire on us. Once we dock, we can restore the jammers. Lila tapped her pencil on the table. All right, let's get to work. In the communications chamber, Emma and Jamil prepared their drone squadron. Tiny craft lined up on launch rails, each equipped with stealth drives and EMP warheads. 5 drones each, Emma instructed the pilots. 3 for jamming, 2 for strike. We fly under their radar, take out the frigate's engines, then slip away. Jamil checked his console. Drones or go. He looked at Emma, excitement shining through. Feels good to be on offense for once. Emma smiled. Let's make it count. That night, under the glow of Jupiter's bands, the combined fleet slipped from Europa's shadow. The horizon led with the Gabriel's Dawn and 2 frigates in tow. Beyond them, a cloud of drones hummed in formation. Captain Ellis stood on the bridge watching the stars. All crews at stations, he said softly. May fortune favor the brave. Lieutenant Cruz gave a crisp nod. Engaging jump drive. The Tyke, Horizon's engines flared bright blue, and the fleet vanished from Europa's skies. Onward toward Old Terra, toward hope, toward the final stand. End of Part 5. The Horizon's engines flared as the fleet emerged from hyperspace near Old Terra's orbit. Before them lay a battered planet, cities in shadow, vast craters scarring its surface, and the silent ruin of once proud star yards floating above. Captain Ellis stood at the viewport, heart pounding. This is it, he said. Everything depends on what comes next. Lieutenant Cruz checked the tactical display. Dominion patrols are heavy around the orbit. We'll need to clear a path to the shipyard dock. She highlighted a cluster of frigates and corvettes blocking the station entrance. We can't go head on. Mark nodded. Emma launched the EMP drones. Jamil positioned the strike drones. Coordinate with Reyes and Patel. We hit fast, then dock. He turned to Lila. Shields at full? Lila tapped her console. 50% steady. I held back power for the docks. We can boost if needed, but we should rely on speed and surprise. In the hangar bay, Riley, a former pilot turned drone commander, stood beside her squadron. She studied the drone readouts on her wrist console. 3 jammers, 2 strikers, she said. We'll launch in 30 seconds. Ready your teams. Across the bay, Price gathered his Marines. Once the frigates are blind, we board the station, he ordered. Secure the control tower, open the dock doors, and let our engineers in. His soldiers gripped their rifles with grim determination. Jamil approached, nodding. We're synced, he said. Drones launch on your mark, Captain. Mark lifted his hand. Mark. The repair crews and pilots fell back. The massive hangar doors rolled open, revealing the ruined shipyard floating in the void. Outside, stars gleamed coldly. Emma's voice came over the comm. Drones launched. On the viewport, tiny specks streaked toward the enemy ships. First, the jammer drones accelerated toward the nearest corvette. They unleashed silent pulses that flickered across the ship's systems. Moments later, the corvette's shield indicators dimmed, its turrets grinding to a halt. Then the strike drones darted in, slipping beneath the enemy hulls and releasing EMP warheads. The corvette's engines stuttered, then died, leaving it drifting, powerless. Target 1 down, Riley reported. 2 more to go. The horizon weaved into the gap left by the disabled corvette. Plasma batteries on its bow roared to life, firing precise bursts that shredded the next frigate's armor. Explosions blossomed across her flank, and the vessel spun out of formation. 2 down, Emma said. Last one is a heavy cruiser. Mark's jaw clenched. Make it fast. He keyed the comm. Gabriel's Dawn, cover our flank. Reyes, deploy boarding pods. From the Dawn's boarding bay, sleek, torpedo-shaped pods shot toward the cruiser's docking tube. Inside, Price and his Marines braced against the walls as they sped forward. Boarding in 3, 2, 1. The pods rammed the cruiser's hull, magnetic clamps springing open. Price kicked open the hatch and led his team through the twisting corridors of the enemy vessel. Above them, Mark maneuvered the horizon alongside the cruiser's side, Shields flickered as he held position. Lila, maintain distance and power. Up boarding lines. Emma, keep their guns distracted. Emma banked the horizon in tight circles around the cruiser, drawing turret fire. The big guns swung, missing by meters as the horizon slipped in and out of firing arcs. Below deck, Price's team engaged the cruiser's skeleton crew, mechanical defenders left behind when the Dominion fleet moved on. Blaster fire echoed in metal corridors as Price and his Marines fought their way to the control room. "Control room ahead," Price called. He kicked open the door and found the ship's central console. "Shields and doors, offline," he reported. "Send winch cables up. We can pull their boarding tube open for the horizon." On the horizon's cockpit, Mark watched the winch readouts on his screen. "We have a window," he said. He pushed the throttle forward. The ship surged, thundered against the cruiser's side, and then clamped onto the winch lines. With a shudder, the cruiser's airlock doors gave way. Down in the shipyard's central dock, the combined crews watched as the Horizon and Dawn slipped inside. Workers rushed forward to begin repairs on idle hulls, while medics helped wounded soldiers. Engineers from both ships shared tools and data, working feverishly to revive old ship constructs. Mark stepped into the main control tower, where Reyes and Patel waited. The holomap glowed with new green dots marking functional bays. "You did it," Reyes said, clapping Mark on the shoulder. "We have 10 ships that can fly again," Patel grinned, "and more on the way." Mark looked out at the revived shipyard. "This is just the beginning," he said. "We may have beaten the odds, 800,000 to 1, but now we build our future." He turned to Emma and Lila standing beside him. "Tomorrow we forge our fleet. Tonight we rest and remember why we fight." As lights flickered back to life across Old Terra's shipyard, a new dawn rose for humanity. Their stand was far from over, but they had reclaimed a beacon of hope in the darkest corner of space. End of Part 6. The shipyard's lights glowed warmly against Old Terra's dusky horizon. Outside, freshly repaired frigates and corvettes glided, beneath the spires of ancient dry docks. Inside the main hall, Captain Mark Ellis stood before the gathered crews of the Horizon, Gabriel's Dawn, and the revived fleet. Faces brightened by hope looked back at him. He raised his hand. "We have beaten impossible odds. From Titan Station's ruin to Europa's relay, from drifting in space to reclaiming this shipyard, we have proven that humanity will fight on." A roar of agreement echoed through the chamber. Mark smiled and lowered his voice. "But this is only the start. Our homeworlds lie lost or under Dominion rule. Our families wait. Now we have ships, we have crew, and we have each other." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "Tomorrow we set course for New Hope Station. It's a hidden outpost at the edge of Dominion space. There we will train our fleet, gather refugees, and build alliances. From there, we will strike back." Lieutenant Emma Cruz stepped forward. "Our engineers have completed repairs on 10 frigates and 5 corvettes. We also recovered 3 transport ships. We can carry over 1,000 souls and defend them." A woman in the crowd raised her hand. She wore the uniform of an old Terra Ranger. "What about our wounded?" she asked. "We need medical ships and supplies." Mark nodded. "Dr. Arif and his team will retrofit 2 transports as hospital ships. We have medical crews from Titan Station and the Dawn ready to help. Supplies are low, but our next stop, New Hope, has stockpiles." Engineer Lila Sharma moved to the front next. "We've salvaged Dominion wrecks and our own scrap. We can build repair bays on New Hope to handle ongoing damage. Our systems will stay online." Jamil, now Chief of Drone Operations, stepped forward. "Our drone squadron is fully functional. We'll patrol against surprise attacks and scout ahead." Captain Price added, "Our Marines will train local militias at New Hope. We'll prepare them to defend their homes and help us liberate others." Mark surveyed his team. "This plan depends on unity. We all come from different ships, different worlds, but we share one cause: to free humanity." He looked at the children who had once held their signs in Europa's bay. Now they sat quietly at the edge of the crowd, their eyes shining with wonder. Mark's voice softened. For their sake, we cannot fail. That night, after the assembly, the senior officers gathered in the Horizons conference room. A holographic star map hovered above the table, showing Old Terra, New Hope Station, and known Dominion routes. Emma traced a path. If we leave at 0300, we can use the comet trail to mask our jump signature. Dominion sensors rarely watch that region. Lila tapped her datapad. I've scheduled 2 reactor boosts, one to exit orbit, one to re-enter at New Hope. Both short bursts under 20 seconds to avoid detection. Price frowned. If we're spotted, we can't outrun a cruiser. We need escorts. Jamil grinned. Drones. We send swarms to confuse enemy scanners. False contacts everywhere. Mark nodded approvingly. Good. And we will send the drone leadership on board the Dawn's command nets. Both captains work together. He looked at Reyes, the Dawn's mechanic. Can you jury-rig our communications for long-range blackout bursts? We send info only in short pings. Reyes tapped the map. Yes. We'll relay through Gabriel's Dawn and 2 corvettes. Harder to trace. Mark leaned forward. Then it's settled. We leave in 5 hours. Rest now. Tomorrow we sail into the next chapter. In the docking bay, families boarded the first transports. Children laughed as they played hide-and-seek among crates of supplies. Engineers loaded medical kits and spare parts. Pilots performed final checks on control panels. Mark walked among them, offering smiles and nods. He found Lila tightening a bolt on a small repair droid. How are you? He asked. She looked up, her face tired but content. Better now that the shipyard's ours. I've never dreamed I'd see Earth's sky again. Mark placed a hand on her shoulder. You and your team made this possible. She nodded. Let's hope New Hope is as welcoming. At 300 hours, the fleet assembled in Old Terra's orbit. Horizon led, followed by Gabriel's Dawn, the repaired frigates, corvettes, and transports. A flicker ran through the assembled ships, green, blue, and silver lights reflecting off battered hulls. Captain Ellis stood on the bridge of the Horizon. Emma sat at his side, fingers poised over the navigation console. Lila monitored reactor output and Jamil scanned the drone net. Mark took a deep breath. Engage jump drive on my mark. He counted down. 3, 2, 1. The Horizon's engines flared in a tight blue pulse. The stars stretched and snapped away. One by one, the fleet vanished from Old Terra's orbit, heading for New Hope Station, carrying the last spark of human defiance. As the jump lights faded, Mark whispered, Humanity refused to back down. And now, we begin the fight to reclaim our home. End of Part 7.